Madam Chair, you may proceed.
Thank you. And with that, I'd like to call the Health and Human Services Committee to order. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Alderwoman Ingracia,
Present.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Green,
Present.
Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Navarro,
Present.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Present.
Alderwoman Rice,
Present.
Alderman Todd, Chairwoman Spencer.
Present.
6 present, you have quorum.
Present being held, we can proceed. I'd like to give a special warm welcome to Alderwoman Grass, who's joining us today. Welcome, Alderwoman, and if you have any questions about the bill, please don't hesitate to jump in.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
And hearing that, I'd like to recognize the excused alder people. Today we have Alderwoman Sharon Tyus and Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Wood Martin. For excused absences, they both had unforeseen instances come up. Today before us, we have Board Bill 27. Before that, we get to that, I believe that's the only bill on our agenda. I'd like to entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the July 9th committee hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Alderwoman Ingracia,
Aye.
Alderwoman Tyus, Alderwoman Green,
Aye.
Alderwoman Martin, Alderwoman Navarro,
Aye.
Alderwoman Middlebrook,
Aye.
Alderwoman Rice,
Aye.
Alderman Todd, Chairwoman Spencer.
Aye.
6 aye votes.
Okay, with that, board for consideration today, Board Bill 27. I know this is a bill we've heard in the past and one that has quite a few amendments and one that the sponsor has been working very hard to make sure that we can get done before break. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to sponsor Alderwoman Ingracia to round us up. Give us the lowdown.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman, members of the committee. We have before us today Board Bill 27. As you know, this is a bill related to third-party delivery services that provide goods, food, and beverages to our residents. It's become increasingly of importance to independent business owners here in the city during the COVID-19 pandemic. And so subsequent to our last committee hearing with input from colleagues, continued conversations with independent business owners in the city of St. Louis, and meaningful input and conversation with some of the platforms, including Instacart, Uber Eats, and DoorDash. I think we've come to a pretty smart compromise. It doesn't get anybody everything they want, but I think is a smart step in the right direction in terms of providing some immediate relief to our independent business and restaurant owners in the city. And so with that, I would like to introduce Amendment 1 to Board Bill 27.
Second. Do we need a second on that?
Yes.
Second.
Need a motion on Amendment 1 and a second. And actually, Madam Vice, would you take over for just a moment? There's a situation I need to attend to.
Yes. All right. So I think we had a motion and a second on Amendment 1. So this is before us, correct? Do you want to go ahead and talk about Amendment 1?
Sure. That would be great.
Sorry.
Thank
Oh, do we
you.
need to call roll on that? Sorry.
Yes, we do.
Roll.
Sorry.
Previous.
Go ahead, Matt. Oh,
Previous.
Thank you.
thank you. All right.
So just say
Alderwoman
here, hearing no objection to.
All right. Hearing no objection to previous roll, we will proceed with Amendment 1.
Thank you
Alderwoman
so much.
Gracia.
So Amendment 1 begins on page 1, line 1, so the very start of the bill, and really just cleans up the introductory paragraph. There were some things that we are taking out in a couple of additions. Before we had talked about whether or not the city health department would be required to post inspection letter grades, and also a requirement of the businesses to work in concert to make that happen. So you would know if a restaurant had an A, a B, whatever it is. It seemed unduly burdensome to both the business owners and the platform when residents can simply search online at the health department's website to find grades. That was not something I'm aware of. So that's taken out, and then just really changing, cleaning up the language so it's a bit shorter. We added a penalty clause that was not in there before as well. I'm happy to take questions about it.
Great, thank you. I know we have several amendments, and I'm happy to go through down the line unless folks just want to be recognized for questions on these amendments. Should we go? Do you all, if anybody has a question, why don't you raise your hand? And I'm not seeing any. I do just have one question. So are these grades available online somewhere?
Yes, they are available online at the health department's website, and they have been for quite some time. I just did not realize that.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, and our chairwoman is back. We just heard discussion, or just had discussion on Amendment 1. We have not voted on it though.
Do we have questions on amendment number 1?
I believe they were asked and answered.
Okay, perfect. I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 1 passes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Now before us is Amendment 2 to Board Bill 27, starting on page 1, line 14. And this cleans up the language. We had included employer as being covered by the base wage definition, and we really want it to say, we want it to be more broad than that, because most of these delivery drivers are not employees. They don't have an employee-employer relationship. It's a contract relationship. So just making sure that we are actually doing what we think we are in terms of the people who are involved in either providing services or delivering those.
And with that, I'll entertain questions from the committee on amendment number 2. Alderwoman Rice. I think what we'll do here is just take raised hands rather than going through the list, and that way we can get through these amendments more quickly. Alderwoman Rice.
Thank you. Alderman Gracia, I am just curious, are all of the entities that you're imagining are covered by this not an employer-employee situation? So having a third-party service completely replace employer in that definition covers everybody?
Correct.
Okay. Cool. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't also there wasn't some arrangement that calls some of these folks employees that would.
Not that I'm aware of, based on all the platforms that I'm aware of that exist.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions? It looks like we have no other questions from panelists. And so seeing that, I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 2.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a request for previous roll?
Previous roll. Oh,
Board
great.
amendment 2 passes. Alderwoman from the 6th, would you like?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes. Next up is Amendment 3. It starts on page 2, line 3. This really just takes out the references to food establishments, because we contemplated this being useful to both food providers like restaurants and delivery services like Instacart, but also to other small businesses who might be offering retail or other options for residents. And so that's, I think, the only change is just taking out food.
Okay. Do we have any questions on amendment number 3? Okay, seeing that, I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 3.
Move we adopt amendment number 3.
Your second?
Second. Previous roll.
Amendment number 3. Hearing no objection, amendment 3 passes. Alderwoman from the 6th, amendment number 4.
All right, amendment number 4 begins on page 2, line 7. It changes delivery fees to third-party fees. One of the agreements that we came to with the working group with whom I've been discussing was that we were going to group all the fees and commissions together. So there are delivery fees, fees for advertising and marketing, promotional fees, credit card fees, a number of different types of fees. And so this would sort of serve as an umbrella for all of those fees instead of dividing them out. And I'm happy to take questions.
Okay, are there any questions on amendment number 4? Looks like we have a question from Alderwoman Navarro.
Yes, thank you. So just to clarify, so this is kind of to make sure that if we address delivery fees, it doesn't pop up somewhere else as some other type of fee.
That's accurate, yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, seeing no other questions, I want to ensure having this number of amendments is a little bit unusual. It's certainly not unheard of by any stretch of the imagination, but Madam Clerk, should we be making motions to put the amendments individually before us? I just want to make sure I'm following legal procedure adequately. Should we be motioning to put them in front of us as well as passing them?
I believe so, but I can double check. I'll double check with Terry. I was actually about to call him.
Okay.
Oh, I'm on here.
He's actually on the line. Yeah.
Just dawned up that we may be skipping a step here.
Yeah, you don't have to have the step of putting it before you. You can have her discuss it and then make the direct motion to adopt it.
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much. That's very helpful.
I move that we adopt amendment 4.
And previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment number 4 passes. Excuse me, amendment number 5 passes.
Madam Chairwoman, we were working to get Alderman Todd. He is called in by phone.
Oh, I see
You
him.
might see him. You may see him down there now, but I think he should be able to speak at this point.
Alderman Todd, can you verify that that you can speak? I don't think you can raise your hand via phone. So if you have a question, I want to make sure.
I just want to point out he was on there.
Okay.
There are technical issues.
Alderman Todd, if you have any questions. Hopefully we can figure out a way to chime in.
Yeah.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and discuss amendment number 6 to Board Bill 27.
I just wanted to be clear, we just passed amendment 4 and I haven't discussed 5 yet.
Oh, excuse me.
I just want to make sure I'm correct.
I got the same thing.
Okay. So amendment number 5 changes the definition from food, page 2, line 15 is where we are. Changes the definition from food establishment to business establishment. So it encompasses what we would traditionally think as restaurants and other food providers like grocery stores, in addition to merchants, which is what the license collector's office uses to define anyone or an entity that's receiving a business, any sort of business license in the city. Happy to take questions.
We have questions on amendment number 5. Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion on amendment 5.
Move we adopt amendment number 5. I think Heather's muted. Or
Second.
previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 5 passes. Now we'll move on to amendment 6.
Thank you,
I'm
Madam Chair.
sorry. We have a new member now. In previous
Oh,
roll did not work for that. So if we've already moved past this amendment, just going forward, we should try to get Alderman Todd.
Alderman Todd, when you're able to be audible, I'm concerned if we roll you in. I don't know how we can roll you in if we can't hear you. Alderman Todd, are you able to, I think we may unfortunately be unable to hear Alderman Todd.
Yeah.
Okay. Understanding that, Alderman Todd, when you can weigh in, we'd like to roll you in. And until that time, I think we'll proceed.
You have to take it from
Alderman from the 6th, if you could go on with
Thank you,
them.
Madam Chair. Amendment 6 is on page 3, line 4, and simply again removes food and discusses third-party delivery services and not third-party food delivery services, so that we are able to encompass retail businesses as well. Again, happy to take questions.
We have questions on amendment number 6. Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 6.
So moved.
second,
Any
previous roll.
I think I just heard Alderman Todd's phone there for a second, so he
I
might be
did
able
too.
to be voted in now. If we could roll call.
Alderman Todd, are you able to join us by audio means? Okay, I will entertain a motion for previous roll. Unable to hear Alderman Todd.
I think Alderwoman Middlebrook called previous roll.
Previous roll.
Okay, thank you. Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 6 passes. And Alderman from the 6th, you're welcome to discuss the amendment number 7.
Great. Amendment 7 strikes out the paragraphs beginning with page 3, line 11, through page 4, line 2. Just definitions that are no longer needed under the changes that we made to the bill.
Okay, any questions on amendment number 7? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 7. I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt amendment number 7.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 7 passes. Alderman from the 6th, amendment number 8.
Thank you. We're going to start with page 4, line 3. And again, just cleaning up the definition based on the changes we made. We're removing food delivery service and just making it third-party delivery service, and then changing a food establishment to a business establishment. And happy to take questions.
Any questions on amendment number 7? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved on amendment 7.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 7 passes. Alderwoman from the 6th, amendment number 8.
Great. Page 4, line 3. Just strike out online order and then replace it with the third-party delivery service or covered business establishment.
Any questions on amendment number 8? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 8.
I move that we adopt amendment number 8.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment number 8 passes. Alderman from the 6th, amendment number 9.
Thank you. Page 4, line 8 is where we are for amendment 9. Again, just referring to third-party delivery service versus a third-party food delivery service, and then adding after food and beverages goods. So that would cover retail businesses. Happy to take questions.
Any questions on this amendment? Seeing no questions, I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 8.
I move that we adopt amendment number 9.
Sorry, number 9.
Right? 9?
9.
Okay.
Second. Previous roll.
Hearing no objection, amendment number 9 passes. And now I will move on to amendment number 10.
Amendment number 10 takes us to page 4, line 12. We're going to strike out section 2 through the end of section 3 on page 6, line 2. Again, this is just because we're taking out the health inspection grade portion of this, so it's no longer needed in here.
Okay, any questions on this amendment? Okay, seeing none, I will entertain a motion on amendment number 10.
I move that we adopt amendment number 10.
We have a second.
Second. Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 10 passes. Alderman from the 6th, amendment number 11.
Thank you. Amendment number 11 is at page 6, line 3. We're calling this third-party delivery fees now versus delivery fees. And then it's also including a sunset. So once the mayor lifts a proclamation under the charter that we are under now because of the pandemic, there will be 60 days that this will still be in effect for small businesses. And so that is something that we can revisit at that time, but just as a matter of course, just giving some sense of, I guess, understanding between the restaurants and the third-party delivery apps that this may not be something that everyone agrees to via this legislative process for a long-term solution. And I'm happy to take questions about that.
Seeing no questions, I'll ask a quick question. Is there, I mean, we heard some discussion. Has there been any subsequent discussion after some of these changes have been and adjustments have been made, Alderwoman? Or do you anticipate moving forward with a different long-term solution, or is this something where?
There are a number of items that I discussed with both independent business owners and platform representatives that even they would like to see cleaned up. And I think just because of the immediacy of this situation and us wanting to provide the relief that we can as quickly as we can to our small business owners, I have commitments from Uber Eats and DoorDash to continue discussions to have a more long-term solution for a number of these items. And I'm not sure that they would agree that a long-term cap is something that they would move forward with willingly during the legislative process. And so that's something I would prefer that we just contemplate at a later date at this point in time.
Okay, that makes sense to me. Alderwoman Navarro.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I think this is a good idea, and it shows how we're able to be flexible and nimble in response to the current situation. I'm curious, and I don't know if you know, Alderwoman, just in terms of how this plays out in terms of notice and making sure that, you know, after 60 days when this sunsets, yeah, I don't know, is there anything special we need to do to make sure that customers are aware as well as businesses? Do you know how that plays out?
I don't know that it would, I don't think it would particularly be something that customers would necessarily, I mean, I guess it's always better to have as many people educated on topics as possible, but it's something that the platforms can communicate to their small business or restaurant partners via their platforms, and something that I think as a city we should make sure that that we are doing our part to do as well. And I left off sort of another important piece of this, which is that before we had delivery fees capped at 5%, but we only addressed delivery fees. We didn't really address this in a more comprehensive way. And so this amendment also prohibits any combined fees or commissions totaling more than 20% of the total purchase price from happening during this particular pandemic. And so that's also included in this as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, and I guess the way that would play out is after the 60 days, if one of the platforms increased fees, I guess the restaurants would notice, or yeah, then it would be up to them to communicate. They
have contracts. Well, most of the platforms have contracts with most of the businesses that they're partnering with. Another piece that we discussed, I think it came up in our last committee meeting, was that there are some platforms who are listing restaurants without permission, which is causing some problems. And that's something that I'm hoping to bring back in the fall with some thoughtful language surrounding it for more long-term solutions.
Got it. Thank you so much for your work on this. I know it sounds like it's been very complicated, so, and a lot of people involved. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Any other questions on? We have one other question Oh, that went away. Okay, so seeing no other questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt amendment number 11.
Your second on that motion?
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection, amendment number 11 passes. Amendment number 12.
So Amendment 12 takes us to page 6, line 10. Under business licenses, again, cleans up the language to make sure that we're including a more broad covered establishment. It's not just food establishments. That's the gist of this amendment.
Okay. Any questions on amendment number 12? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I move we adopt amendment number 12.
Second.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 12 passes. Amendment number 13, Alderwoman.
Amendment 13 will strike out, beginning with section 6 on page 6, line 16, through page 8, line 10, and replace it with a section, base pay, gratuities, and payment to delivery drivers. It makes the language a bit more concise and succinct. It also is not everything that I wanted included, but I think makes sense in terms of where we are right now in expediency. And so there will be a requirement for the platforms to list when you're purchasing through them that gratuities are going to, like what percentage of the gratuities are going to the delivery driver themselves. That's been an issue with some of the platforms, not all, some of them already do it. And then adds a section that we didn't have before, that the base pay, if that gratuity is going towards the base pay, that would be something that the platforms were required to be transparent about, so that people who are participating in this from a purchasing standpoint would understand that maybe the platform itself isn't paying for the entire base pay, that some of the gratuities would go towards that. And then also adds a section that it would be unlawful for the third-party delivery service to reduce the base pay or gratuities to the delivery driver based on the requirements of this ordinance, so that they couldn't be punished for or have negative consequences because of the fee cap that we're imposing.
Any questions on an amendment number 13? Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you. Did this come up at all? And maybe this isn't part of the discussion, but I mean, right now, the only way to do gratuity is on the front end, right?
No, it depends on the platform.
Okay, so some of them, after the delivery has been made, you can do gratuity. That's possible on some of them?
Yes.
Okay, all right. And this applies to both scenarios?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I don't have any further questions.
Seeing no additional questions, I guess I have a question, Alderwoman. You mentioned this doesn't go sort of far enough. Can you just help me understand what maybe
Sure. I think that would be my opinion. I think the platforms would disagree with my stance on this, but I think there are a lot of complicated and complex issues around just the on-demand economy and how workers are being paid, minimum wage issues, living wage issues. And although I would have, I was intending to sort of delve into that in this bill, because of the complexity and the legal issues surrounding that and everything else that we've had to deal with at the board this session, I think that it's smarter for us to address that at another date and time. And again, something that I'm committed to continuing working on.
That's excellent. Something that had escaped me previously was that some of the gratuities were going to the platform and rather than the delivery person. Can you help? I mean, that just sounds
sure.
Great.
And it's not happening on all the platforms. For example, the platforms who were the most responsive and willing to work with me, Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Instacart, None of those providers do that, but there's definitely a sort of bully in the room who some of us received a letter from in the past, who wasn't really willing to work with me, who just threatened litigation, who has some unsavory practices that I would like to have addressed in the future. But unfortunately, again, due to time constraints with the summer session and wanting to be as helpful as to businesses as quickly as possible, I feel like the bill that we have before us with these amendments makes the most sense right now. I feel like the bill that we have before us with these amendments makes the most sense right now.
Well, I would just add that, I mean, having used some of these platforms, I could provide an extra tip to the driver as a way of thanking them for exposing themselves and to the virus, and oftentimes there are people that are trying to make extra cash, and I would hate to think that money wasn't going where it was intended, and I would be committed to helping to identify any bad players who are misduping, I would say, the public into providing a tip that wouldn't go to the person who's doing the dangerous work of being the intermediary here. So
right, and that's why I think that we all agreed within the groups of people that I were talking to that it was fair for the customer to know that all of their gratuity was going to the driver, and if it wasn't, that would be something that they were made aware of as well.
Thank you for unearthing that. I had no idea that was happening. And Alderwoman Navarro, did you have subsequent questions? Your hand is raised. Okay, see no other questions on amendment number 13, I'll entertain a motion.
I move that we adopt amendment number 13.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 13 passes. Now we can move to amendment 14. Alderwoman from the 6th, you have suddenly become mute.
Sorry, I'm on now. I just want to make sure I pulled the amendment list. I want to make sure I have the right, that you all have the right one in front of you. There should be an amendment 14 that talks about exemptions.
Yes.
Okay.
Beginning with page 8, line 11, add the following language before the paragraph entitled several.
Okay, great. Thank you. I must have pulled the wrong one. Let me scroll down here. I apologize.
It says section 6, exemptions. Any third party delivers service with its only place of operation located within the city of St. Louis and no more than 40 separately owned and operated covered establishments shall be exempt from this ordinance.
Yep, that's the right one. So this would exempt the food peddler, and that is a small locally owned business that operates, I think, almost exclusively within the Central West End. So just wanting to make sure that any service like that, really on the ground here, providing a service that many of our residents find valuable because they are such small mom and pop operations, have the ability to execute contracts outside of what some of the larger platforms are.
Do we have any entertain questions on amendment number 14? Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you. I'm just trying to understand. So with no more than 40 separately owned and operated covered establishments, I mean, I'm reading this as somebody who's based in St. Louis and has no more than 40
customers.
Customers.
Restaurants or businesses.
Oh, that it's servicing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And has no more than 40. So 40 separately owned and operated. Okay. I guess I'm reading that as, like in your example of food peddler, that food peddler would, I'm just wondering, should that say service no more than 40? Because it sounds like food peddler, like it sounds like the delivery service has, I don't know, maybe, am I the only one that's kind of confused?
Alderwoman, I agree. I misread that as well, or I interpreted it in the way you're reading it. And the way that Alderwoman Gracia explained it makes a lot of sense. I'm not sure that it reads we may want to have a amendment to the amendment that says that any third-party delivery service located in the city of St. Louis with no more than 40 separately owned and operated covered establishments as clients or as options.
Or contracts with no more than 40?
Yeah, I'm amenable to changes. If you don't think it's clear, then probably a lot of other people would think the same.
I'll defer to any lawyer in the room on that. If Alderwoman Navarro, do you have a suggestion on how we could make that just a tad more?
Well, I guess I would suggest that maybe we strike, so in the second line of that amendment where it says, and no more than and no more than, maybe we change that, maybe we just insert in there. I don't know if it's contracted with, that's the right language in terms of the relationship that the platform has with the businesses, and services no more than 40.
Provides, what if we say?
Provides delivery services for more than 40, if we inserted that language.
I'm fine with that. I'm also fine to hold this amendment and work out better language for the floor.
That's fine with me too. If we want to,
I would prefer. I'm just going to say, as the chair here, I think do you think this will have discussion on the floor? Is there a possibility this goes into consent?
Yeah, I think there's a possible. I mean, I assume that there's always a possibility for discussion on the floor, but I don't think it's particularly controversial since we have 3 of the major platforms on board and a good number of small businesses. And I think, Alderman, I've been in conversations with a lot of our colleagues who are not on this committee to make sure that they're being kept up to date. So I'm happy to amend the amendment to make it more clear. And I think all of this both of the suggestions that you made make sense to me.
If the clerk could weigh in on the ease of that, it may save us time in full board if we do it now. But I would be amenable to any which way. So I'll entertain a motion on that.
I guess I'm not sure of the logistics in terms of writing something up, but I mean, I would move that we insert the words provides services to after the and before no more than 40.
I could support that as well. Or if you're making that motion, I second it.
Is there a request for previous roll on that motion?
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, the amendment to Amendment 14 passes. And I'll entertain a motion on Amendment 14.
I move that we adopt amendment number 14 as amended.
Second. Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Amendment 14 passes. And now to the final amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment would go immediately after Section 6, which we just discussed. There's no page or line number because the line numbers are changing due to the previous amendments, but just adds a penalty clause after Section 6 that covers any violation of this that would be held within the process by which would be held in the license collector's office. Those conversations are ongoing. I had some initial helpful back and forth email with the license collector's office, but it's been a while, so I need to re-engage. I've had a little bit of difficulty getting a response, but I think it's just due to how crazy everyone's schedules are during the pandemic. And so this just provides a mechanism by which to enforce all the language in the bill.
Any questions on Amendment 15? Alderwoman Wright.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Alderwoman Gracia, I'm trying to sort out the section numbers because The previous amendment was to substitute the section 6 exemptions above the section 7 severability clause. So then this, if this was supposed, so is this supposed to be the new section 7, and then section 7 severability clause would be section 8?
And the emergency clause would be section 9.
Got it. Okay. Do we need to have that written out in an amendment, or can we make that an oral amendment onto?
That is a good question. I did work with our attorney on form, but he was also unfortunately exceedingly busy with a lot of other things. So
Sure.
if the clerk is on and has a recommendation that we make note of corrected sections 8 and 9, I'm happy to do that.
So you want section to change the section numbers?
Right. So we added a penalty clause, so
Okay.
that bumps the severability clause and the emergency clause to two new section numbers, 8 and 9.
So the penalty clause, which one is that you added the penalty clause?
Right. So that the penalty clause becomes section 7,
Right.
and then we
so
still
then the
have,
subsequent section numbers changes.
correct.
Okay, that's clear.
Do we need to make a verbal amendment on that, or is that okay as is?
For the changing of the other ones?
Right.
Yeah, it'd be cleaner to do it
Okay.
because you don't have it in this amendment.
Right.
Mhm.
So
It'd be
okay to
clean.
make an oral amendment on that?
You can. The only way unless someone asks for it in writing, you can make an amendment orally.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks for your quick help.
So I move that we, well, I don't know, is
I
there
think
more
just
discussion?
adopt this one, and then we can do, yeah,
And we can do a subsequent amendment.
yeah.
I'll entertain a motion on amendment number 15.
I move that we adopt amendment number 15.
Second.
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, amendment 15 passes. I'll now entertain discussion on any other amendments.
So I'll go ahead and offer a new amendment to amend the current section 7 severability clause to be just renamed the section 8 severability clause.
I'll entertain
Second.
motions on the table, seconded. Is there a request for previous roll?
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection, that amendment, which would be considered amendment 16, passes. Okay, are there any, and
We
One
would
more.
need one more amendment for the
One more.
emergency clause.
Yeah.
now
I would like to move that we rename section 8 to section 9. So emergency clause will now be section 9.
Second.
is there a request for previous roll?
Previous roll.
Hearing no objection. Okay, amendment now 17, changing the section number again, is passed. Was there any further discussion on amendments to consider on board bill 27? Okay, seeing none, I'd like the sponsor to round us out. Give us
Thank you,
this
Madam.
everything.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I can't tell you how appreciative I am of all your time. I'm still embarrassed that these are in amendment form and not committee subs. I think it speaks to the fact that we definitely need help for aldermen in terms of staffing and assistance for our staff because there's just too much for all of us to take on. So I really appreciate your time. Wanted to thank my co-sponsors, Alderwoman Shamim Clark-Hubbard and Alderwoman Megan Green, Uber Eats and DoorDash for, and all of the small businesses for weighing in on this. I think we're at a good place, and I'm looking forward to your favorable consideration of Board Bill 27 as amended.
I would like to add, I mean, Alderwoman from the 6th, you've done an enormous amount of job. I know that juggling all of the pieces here was incredibly time consuming. Thank you to the entire committee for coming today. We had a little mishap last week on getting this done last week, and I appreciate everyone's willingness to spend additional time here on a Monday to make sure that we got this done before break. I think this is not just impactful to our small businesses, but really sends a message that we, through the leadership of the Alderman from the 6th, care about issues, even if they seem small, that impact our small business community during time of crisis. Thank you for your leadership here. And I know it was not an easy task to get to where we are. With that, Alderwoman Navarro.
Thank you. I'd like to have my name added as a co-sponsor.
Madam Clerk, please take note. You can add me as well. Would anybody, Alderwoman Rice, Alderwoman Middlebrook? And if Alderman Todd wants to add later, we can certainly accommodate. With that, I'll entertain a motion on Board Bill 27 as amended.
I move that we pass Board Bill number 27 as amended with a due pass recommendation.
Second. Previous roll.
Hearing no objection to previous roll, Board Bill 27 passes the Health and Human Services Committee with a due pass recommendation.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, and with that, I think we can call this meeting, seeing nothing else on our agenda, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. I guess we don't really need a motion in committee. I consider Health and Human Services Committee adjourned.
Thank you.